Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and it's that time, guys. The transfer window has finally closed. The manager's words have been firmly burned in the front of everyone's minds. We will be stronger coming out of this transfer window than what we went into it as. And if Matt O'Reilly was to leave, we won't be getting one, but we'll be getting two new midfielders. In the video today, we'll be analysing the Celtic transfer window, where the promise is delivered. Are we stronger than what we were going into it? Are we well equipped to go into the Champions League group stages with high hopes and expectations of getting to the knockout phases thereafter? At any point in the video, if you do, laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this as we cover everything Celtic, as you might imagine. And as I'm kind of moving between studios, we'll try and iron out and make sure we get a consistent upload schedule again for the podcast, the live streams, everything else that the subscribers on the channel have come to know, love and enjoy on the channel so far. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Now that we've got the transfer window out of the way, it's all going to be about pre and post match analysis, live streams, podcasts, all that good stuff, guys. And get into the comment section in this one and let me know, what's your honest opinion on the transfer window? Are we coming out of it stronger than what we went into it? I'll be excited to catch the comments on this one. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it, because we've been covering the transfer progress throughout the window quite regularly on the channel, so we're quite well up to speed. I think all Celtic fans were anyway, going into the deadline day, where the squad currently was standing, where the strengths and weaknesses were, what the shopping list was, and maybe some of the pending departures that we might have. Now, on transfer day itself, we see Mikey Johnston finally leave for the English Championship, back to where it was before in Bournemouth, so we wish him the best of luck in the rest of his future career. And we also seen the departure of Tomoki Iwata to Birmingham City in League One, which did baffle me, and I think it surprised a lot of Celtic fans. The guy's obviously desperate for minutes and desperate to be in an important part of whatever team he moves to next. So again, I wish him the best of luck, but I find that a very perplexing move. Now, coming into deadline day, we still had a few things on the shopping list. We still needed a Matt O'Reilly replacement. We still needed that second midfielder. We still maybe needed some reinforcements at centre-back, and some Celtic fans had a slightly bigger shopping list where we're asking for some extra quality, some extra depth into some of the other positions. But this is how the squad was looking coming into deadline day, and the incomings are definitely where all the headlines are. Celtic first of all go out and make their record transfer signing. We get our man in Arne Engels. Now, Engels coming into the midfield has been kind of, we've seen that this coming down the road for a little while. The links and the speculation has been there for all to see. We had an amazing video out on the channel yesterday at point of recording, depending on when you're seeing this. It'll be linked at the end of this one if you haven't caught it already. But Josh on the channel got face-to-face, got on a call with a Bundesliga expert to get the lowdown on Arne Engels, his play style, what sort of profile he offers, and, get a better idea beyond the statistics. Someone that's actually watched the guy play to an extensive level of what he could offer. And when I see Arne Engels coming into this midfield, and from what I've seen and from now what I've heard in that video with Josh, I don't think this guy is capable of being like an out-and-out Matt O'Reilly replacement in terms of his play style, being that kind of, like, the guy certainly describes him, and you can certainly see he likes to play box to box. He does defend, he does attack, he likes to kind of knit the play together, etc. But O'Reilly is deadly in the final third, in and around the box, playing teammates in, taking shots for himself, of course, and we all know the contribution that he had. And I don't think this guy has that in him too much, to be honest with you, on paper. Let's see how it goes during his career at Celtic. And I do think, I mentioned this on a video recently, but Paulo Bernardo's native position is meant to be a bit more of this defensive midfield role. That's what he plays for Portugal. That's what he came through at Benfica. And the game at the weekend against St Mirren, Bernardo wasn't really in this centre zone to allow McGregor and Hatate to go forward and play make like they did. He was more kind of out here most of the time, and sometimes like recovering back in. But I think now that Engels is in the building, we could see Bernardo Engels being the alternate for me to the more defensive of the three midfielders, because I think McGregor can make up for that goal contribution that O'Reilly had. I think Hatate can do likewise as well. I'm not ruling out it being just as is, and there's nothing too ingenious going on here from Rodgers, any development of the squad in terms of McGregor's role, getting a more worthwhile or a more capable defensive midfielder in there who can also dictate the play and play the ball into safe spaces. And again, the Bundesliga expert we had on the channel did describe him in the kind of opening segment, which I really enjoyed, as being like a smart player, knowing where to play the ball so it's not in pressure. And I think that kind of leans itself into that kind of Busquets role, that deeper midfielder that can then play the ball quickly to a McGregor, to an Hatate, someone that can skip up the pitch 10, 20 yards quite quickly and then play those killer balls, or be on the edge of the box for a shot themselves. So I'm open to seeing some sort of development with the squad here. But I think, conventional wisdom and all balance of probabilities, Engels will just come in to be, the third man in this kind of cog of Hatate and McGregor that's been developing under Rodgers, and also we've seen at the club for the last number of years, really. Engels could grow and could develop, because certainly when Matt O'Reilly came to the club from NK Dons, he wasn't coming up here as having a reputation of being like a proper attacking midfielder, but is also so strong and so smart that he can play those deeper roles that he did have to do for us in like an emergency whenever McGregor or whoever it might else have been, like Iwata wasn't available, these other kind of situations. So O'Reilly's like game intelligence was something that really did stand him out, and by all accounts this Engels is kind of cut from the same cloth in that regard. So he could develop in this role as well. There's definitely nothing stopping him. Still very, very young. Record transfer, the manager and the scouting department obviously must believe in him to some extent. But if O'Reilly was leaving, we wouldn't need one, we would need two additional midfielders. And I think for me, this was the big surprise on deadline day, is seeing Luke McCowan coming in. Now, Luke McCowan is a player that on the channel, on the live streams, the podcast, the videos, everything we've said, anytime we've ever faced Dundee, that, hey, McCowan is a guy domestically that if we brought into our squad would fit, would keep the level quite high, and domestically, like, he can carry the water, he can do the job, and, as long as he, you've seen the pictures of him signing, he looks like a Celtic fan to me, and, like, by all accounts, like, I think this is a great addition to the squad, it must be said. Now, again, McCowan, whenever I've seen him play for Dundee against us, and I mean specifically just against us, I never ever watched Dundee otherwise, I would have likened him a lot more to Hatate. Now, I think early this season, I've seen some clips of McCowan, I can't remember why or how, but he did seem to be a bit more deeper in the kind of McGregor role, and I know he is the kind of the playmaker for Dundee. I think last season with Boateng in a slightly different squad, he was allowed to be a wee bit more of that Hatate kind of position where he could get affect the final third and keep the kind of press on, try and turn the ball over in high areas of the pitch, that sort of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if McCowan was also actually going to displace home a little bit here in some way, shape or form as the Hatate super sub. Like whenever Hatate is coming off, it'll be McCowan that will replace him. I could see that kind of thing developing. If Hatate needs to kind of, like, he's away for Japan duty now, and you know what happens every time Hatate goes away for Japan. So I don't want to speak it into existence, right? But I think that might be a bit more the job he offers. And I'm really happy with this transfer. £1 million for a guy like this is totally cool by me. Absolutely happy with that, no problem at all. It probably does signal the end of Odenholm getting, I don't even know if you would say it's significant minutes, but we've seen him way more already this season than we did last in the kind of general first team reckoning. But the part of the midfield picture now that we need to update, of course, and it was the most baffling part of transfer deadline day for me, was Tomoki Iwata leaving for Birmingham City. Now, I get why he's left, and I get that subsequently why a lot of people do think McCowan is McGregor cover, but McGregor's still going to play 90 minutes a lot. He's also retired from international football, which I think will help him sustain playing like 95, 99% of matches for us. So yeah, I definitely think he's got that versatility. I suppose he could cover McGregor if needed and do that same kind of role. But without Iwata in here, like, and again, my ears are ringing with listening to Josh's interview with the Bundesliga expert, but there's not a defensive midfielder between any of these people here. There's not a shield guy that can sit in front of the defence. I expect us in the Champions League to play similarly to the way we did last year in the kind of double pivot. You know, the two guys in the engine room. It's probably going to be Engels and McGregor, with Hatate being allowed to press up here in the front line if the space is there for him. And McGregor probably having more freedom than Engels from the way he profiles in the description that we've had from him to counter-attack and try and burst into space for us. And if we are going to play in this kind of double pivot defensive midfielder position, like I said before, like, McGregor isn't a defensive midfielder as such, and if this guy isn't a defensive midfielder as such, that is described, not to spoil any more of Josh's video, although I don't think I've spoiled anything yet, to be honest with you, is that this guy, if to play in a midfield, you would want a defensive midfielder next to him to allow him to kind of knit the play from defence to attack without actually being an attacking presence, as it were. So I do think that we're putting a lot of pressure on the defence to defend. Now again, I watch as much Celtic fan media as the next guy, and I love to go around and get everyone's opinion and try and hear other people's insights. Maybe some other people have got some intel as well, which is always great to see. But I think, like, we're definitely got the hype train going that maybe Greg Taylor could be having his best year at Celtic so far. And Alex Valle coming in here, of course, does improve the quality that we've got in left back, because if he is better than Taylor at 1v1 defending, that could be something that could come into the fold here, as well as McGregor, maybe even, Taylor, maybe even just levelling up himself under this threat of competition from Valle. But the centre-back area is the area where is needed that upgrade also the most. And that was the transfer that we made. It felt like through gritted teeth, to be honest with you. I don't know what the final fee was exactly. Let's check Transfermarkt. It was reported as being, yeah, like 5.5 or something. Transfermarkt has got it down as a question mark. But 5.5, 6 million quid with add-ons, something like that. This felt like a move that, again, it was, like I say, it was done through gritted teeth. But what I think this restores to the defence is something we've not had since we had Starfelt and Jens, because Carter Vickers is nailed. And then when we had Starfelt and Jens, like, I was a big Jens fan. I wouldn't have let Jens go. I'd rather sign him, especially if Starfelt was going to do what he ended up doing in the end, you know. But when we had Starfelt and Jens, both of them well, Jens also had a short time here, but I think that was when he got the best out of Starfelt, was when he knew he had a genuine competitor breathing down his neck to get into the team every week. And I think that can only do Scales the world of good. I don't think Trusty comes in and out replaces him. But again, similar to Valle, maybe being a wee bit better. And this is just speculation at this point because I've not seen that much of Valle. 1v1 defending. His statistics certainly would lead you to believe he does. What Austin Trusty has that Scales doesn't is huge recovery pace. And if we're playing in the Champions League, and recovery pace is something that is vitally important in a lot of these matches we're going to be playing in, I could see Trusty maybe being preferred to Scales, or maybe it could be something where we would see some sort of 3-5-2 shape come in. 5-2-3? Depends. I doubt it, but it does open up the option to play 3 at the back a little bit differently, because Trusty, like, yeah, on this left side of defence, Scales and Vickers, it could maybe be something to think about, but yeah, unlikely. But again, a lot of people think Trusty maybe comes in and just kicks Scales out on the bench straight away. I don't see it being that way at all. It might be kind of similar to what we see with Idah and Kyogo, where the manager might look at, the opposition we're playing. Domestically, it's going to be like, why bother for the most part? But you will need to keep them both happy. You will need to give them both minutes. But when it comes to the Champions League, or when it comes to vital kind of cup games or whatever, if you know that pace on the counter-attack is going to be the main threat, then you can pick Trusty over Scales, and you've got an idea that you're upgrading the defence to cover an opposition strength. So, like, I kind of like the transfer, but this is a funny situation, right? Because at the beginning of the window, the window started for us when we got Adam Idah in for 9 million. I had two main kind of things. I was worried that was taking money away from signing other players, which I think, looking at this now, with us not getting Bogus, with us not signing Valle on a permanent deal, and there was something else that fell through. It's escaping me right now. But I did just feel that our purse strings were just a little bit tighter than maybe what the club had forecasted for, hoped for, planned for. But the kind of thing I was thinking with the Idah transfer is, if that level of transfer is now the norm, like, Idah for me could not have been our most expensive signing in this window. But if that range of target was now normalised in this window, then that would be, I didn't mind paying them. I wouldn't mind Celtic paying the money for Idah in that case. I thought we did well on the Bernardo deal, and I felt like that kind of unbalanced it ever so slightly. But Trusty coming in for 6, Engels coming in for 11, 12, whatever it is, Idah coming in for 9, and McCowan's that domestic transfer that, you're picking Dundee's pocket here, really. And Valle, like, if we got him over the line for 3 million, he's still kind of in that Naroki, Lager, BLK, like, Alex Johnson, I think, was like 3 million. Juranovic was like 3 million. Like, Celtic love those kind of guys, so he's still in the profile of transfer model, as it were. But these other transfers are ones that should be actually making a quantifiable difference to the Champions League effort, to the best 11 effort. We're spending big boy money on them, which I think is fantastic to finally see. But now that we've kind of assessed all the transfers, we've had a kind of look at the lay of the land, do we think this squad is better than the way we came into the summer with? And I really do think it's a no, to be quite honest with you. Like, I don't think we're stronger at all. We've sold so many high quality players over the last 7 transfer windows, all the way back to Edward and Ayer and Christie, this kind of generation transferring on. And then, yeah, the first era of Postecoglou with Juranovic, Yakimakis and Julian. Julian's also a huge loss on the old balance sheet. And then this is like this is the beginning of the transformation into Rodgers' time. Jota, Abada, Starfelt, Turnbull, big loss on Barkas and Haksabanovic, you think. And in this window, O'Reilly. And then squad players, really, for the most part. And I must say as well, by the way, on the squad players part, I did say this this time last year with all the kind of Lager BLKs and the Rockies and, all the Quans, all the stuff where we're a bit bright. Even Tilio, I know Tilio's kind of not really in the picture here. But if we want to be a club that does, like, enter the transfer market, you do need to have a lot of stock. You do need to have a lot of players. And, getting guys out like Quan, Iwata, Mikey Johnston and all the rest of it, that's a good kind of lifeblood to have in the squad overall. But every one of those transfer windows, we've seen O'Reilly, we've seen Jota, we've seen Edward, we've seen Juranovic, we've seen Giacomakis, we've seen Jota, Abada, I don't know if I've said them already. A whole team's worth of like top end European talent worth millions of pounds. And I think Kuhn is now finally starting to come in to maybe fill a bit of the Jota void. Dyson has really came into his element over the last year or so. We all know the qualities of Kyogo and Idah as well, of course. And beyond that front three, you're talking about Hatate, McGregor, Carter Vickers. I really like Taylor, but we still really need to see him do something impressive in Europe before I think he could change bracket in this conversation. But Carter Vickers and Alistair Johnston, we're talking about like 6 or 7 players here of like top end quality, and then the rest of the team is like questionable, and to some extent, you know, in terms of not everyone's sold on them. Maybe some of them are still to develop. Some of them aren't going to get off the bench. They're not going to break into this best 11 from what we've seen so far. Because look at the midfield. For me, like when it comes to football, midfield is the thing I always have my eye on or my attention to. It's just the way I enjoy football. Midfield is just always where my attention goes to. And yeah, McGregor, McCowan's a nice kind of handcuff situation, if you like. You know, there's good cover there. Bernardo and Engels feeling like quite similar players for the most part. Home and Hatate. Like at the beginning of this window, we had like 3 guys in every position, and probably most of them were just as good as Home. And now we've got like if one of these guys gets injured, if Hatate or McGregor get injured, like take McGregor out of this picture, take Hatate out of this picture. It just feels it's been down a little level for me, to be honest. Which again, I'll just finish the video on this one, but it's just why, again, I think my hunch is that this is maybe a bit more of the strength of the midfield, or the future way it goes is a deeper one. It's a bit stronger and a bit more robust, and let them play make. Because if this is the way it's built, that reliance on, like, if McGregor was taken out, like even just in the immediate term, obviously you don't plan on losing these guys for any severe length of time, but then like Bernardo comes in here, you've still got good competition in this way. And again, you could do the same thing for Hatate. These transfers that we've done in this window definitely put us in a great position to continue that domestic dominance that we became accustomed to under Brendan Rodgers and really Celtic for the last decade and a half, really, at this point. But it's still the Champions League. It's that Everest for us. It's that unfinished business that we've got, especially in like the really modern. We're also in a brand new setting for the Champions League, and we want to put our best foot forward, and we want to really, you know, come at this competition, this new format, make a splash, and really kind of get our old name back out there. And that's just why, like I say, I can't give this transfer window a pass mark until like the results make me think differently, you know. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. On screen are now some other stuff that we've made. I'll link that video that Josh did, like I mentioned in the video before. Don't forget to jump into the comment section on this one. Hail, hail, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.